In our Enterprise Watch, there has been a concern that some companies coming to invest in Eswatini do not have the full muscle to drive economic growth. The investors are said to be paying incompetent or rather incompetitive salaries. In the next interview, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, states that with the right policies and investments, Eswatini can unleash its economic potential. The minister shares a bold vision for growth in a detailed sit-down interview with our business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla. He details the ministry's strategy to stimulate economic growth this year, 2025.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. We just want to know what are the strategies that the ministry is prioritizing this year to stimulate economic growth and create employment opportunities.
So thank you very much for the opportunity. The first thing I want to say is as the program of action has been launched by the Prime Minister to the nation, it is extremely clear that one of the key priorities and success factors of this program of action is job creation, as well as lifting Eswatini out of poverty. Our ministry is front and center in that strategy, and there's a few key strategies that we are working on. Number one, what we are working on is a setting up of a task team of cabinet that comprises of myself, the Minister for Finance, the Minister for Economic Planning, the Minister for Natural Resources, the Minister for ICT, the Minister for Agriculture, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs. This team of ministers has already started meeting with the view of engaging with businesses, both private and state-owned businesses that have mega projects, as we call them, that will drive, significant economic growth in the country. And we are interrogating each and every one of those projects with the view of ascertaining, number one, their probability of success, number two, what government needs to do to ensure that they are enabled to succeed. So we've already had 4 sessions with over 30 businesses for now. What that will do is it will culminate in April into what we call a business conference, rather an investment conference. And I'm glad to announce that we will have one of the biggest investment conferences that we've ever had in the country. We are hoping that the host of this conference will be our head of state and our prime minister, and it is in that conference that a lot of these big players in the economy, both existing currently, who might be having expansion plans, and some of them coming into the country for the first time, will actually make their commitments known to the nation by way of a pledge. And in that particular session, we are targeting investments that will be upwards of 30 billion in one shot. And I think this is going to be a very, very transformative exercise. And I want to thank my colleagues, the various ministers that have agreed to work with us as a ministry on this initiative. That's just one of the strategies. The other one is a similar strategy, but focused on the MSME category, because we know that in successful economies, you find that 65% or better of the economy is in the hands of MSMEs. In Eswatini, this number is less than 10%. So it speaks to the disparity that you then find in our income equality conundrum, where the economy is growing, the private sector is investing, but you don't see a similar improvement in employment, and you don't see an eradication of poverty. And the reason is simple that if you neglect the MSME sector, then you've got a lopsided sort of wealth creation system. What we're doing with that as well is of us SETCO to also pull together an investment seminar for MSMEs, which is local based, and that's going to look at incorporating some of the work that is being done by the Citizens Economic Empowerment Council to see how we can create natural advantages for Maswati in procurement, in entrepreneurship, in access to finance, and also linking up with the big businesses with the view of ensuring that as the big businesses grow and thrive, the MSMEs that support those big businesses are also growing and striving. So whether it's in mining, whether it's in big agricultural projects, whether it's in forestry, whether it's in manufacturing, we want the MSMEs to also say, this is how we would like government to help us to participate. Thirdly, we are driving an export-led economy on top of it being a private sector-led economy that is government-enabled. We really are working hard on the AFCFTA implementation strategy. You will remember that last year we launched an AFTA implementation strategy. What we're doing there is we're talking to companies that are already in Eswatini to say, how can you expand your reach in terms of the countries that you export to? That strategy then is a very targeted strategy that speaks to certain companies that have expressed that desire to expand out of the country. The last thing we're doing that I want to speak to is a revision of our investment policy. The investment policy revision is really more to do with curing the business environment, the environment under which businesses operate in Eswatini, from the time you conceptualize a business to the time you register a business, all the way to when you execute your business strategy. How easy is it? How do we ensure that people can get the information they need, the turnaround times from all the different agencies? It should culminate into what we call a one-stop shop, where all the services are found under one roof, and the investor just has to have a single point of contact with that entity, and all the various elements of what makes their business to prosper are found under that one roof.
Appreciating the bold steps that the ministry is taking to stimulate economic growth and bring employment opportunities, Minister, we have also seen that a number of jobs have been lost along the way in the past year. What is it that the ministry is doing to ensure that the investments that are coming into the country are sustainable? And is it an issue of the increase in the cost of production that these firms and different businesses are closing?
I'm glad you asked that question because, we have had a number of companies, particularly in the textile sector, shutting down. But what I want the nation to understand is most of them are shutting down for reasons unrelated to the viability of the business. So in one case, for example, in Matsanjeni, there's a company called Davin Scott that recently shut down. It was because of administrative failures. The good thing is, as soon as they shut down, we are inundated with people seeking to take over that particular factory. At the end of January, I will be announcing a new investor that's coming in to take about 400 people that were previously employed in that particular entity. The same has happened with TQM Textiles in Matsapa. They were going through some administrative, transformation, which they finished, and they've re-employed all of the people that they had laid off.
There has been an outcry, Minister, that the different businesses that are coming into Eswatini are not paying very well, such that Emaswati, because of the inflationary pressures, they are not able to make a living with these salaries. What is it that you are doing to ensure that the businesses pay competitive salaries?
I think it's a fair question because at the end of the day, people don't want to work for a minimum wage. They want to work for a living wage. We understand that and understand it deeply. But the investment space is a function of supply and demand. So as much as we are working very hard, our investment promotion agency, IPA, is working extremely hard to attract quality investors that will not necessarily seek to be paying at the lower end of the scale. The success rate of that is not at the level that is satisfactory to not only myself, but the nation at large. We understand that, but we also have opportunities that will then mop up a number of our young people that don't have jobs. And our attitude is we will take the successes that we have and build from those with the view of in future attracting higher paying companies. But at this particular point in time, there may not be that many companies that are seeking to come into the country that might be paying at the higher end of the scale. But having said that, our strategy is to really focus on reinvestment of big companies that, to some extent, offer better remuneration packages. For example, we are aware that Ilovo is going to be injecting about 2.6 billion emalangeni in an expansion program. We are aware that RES will be doing something similar, and their investment will be upwards of about 4 billion. They will be, hiring a number of people. We are aware that Maloma Mine is expanding. They are paying a lot better. We are aware that a few new mines have been granted licenses, and they will be coming on stream, and they offer relatively better remuneration. Companies like Somi in Matsapa, is a flagship, vegetable oil producing company that is not your low end payer. And we are talking to Kellogg's with a significant expansion that is coming up, etc. So it is a mixture of strategies, but it is true that a number of the new projects that are coming in are still in the textile space, which is not necessarily the best paying sector.
Mhlonishwa, we know that most of our firms locally are in the textile space, and some of them are importing to South Africa mostly. And South Africa, 2 to 3 years back, introduced the Textile Industry Master Plan 2020 to 2030, which seeks to boost local production and impose tariffs on imported products. How are we positioning ourselves as a country to withstand the challenges that will come with this new master plan?
So the South African textile master plan is a simplistic approach to bring a lot of the manufacturing into South Africa. And what they do is they offer what they call rebates. The government offers rebates to the textile firms so that they can then reduce their costs of production. What are we doing as Eswatini? This has been ongoing for the last 4 years. Number one, we studied this master plan, studied it quite in detail. Number two, we then engaged the local textile sector, again with the view of understanding what they envisage to be impacts of such a master plan. And then number three, we then did a cost comparison to say, with the impact of the master plan versus the cost structure of producing in Eswatini, with all the incentives that we may have. We've got many incentives that we bring, that we give the private sector, as particularly people are going to be doing mass employment. We then give those incentives, but we always have given those incentives. We're comfortable that even with the master plan, we are still more competitive than our neighbors. So, and I think the facts are bearing us out. For example, a textile firm has opened in Gamula, 1,000 people hired. A new firm has opened in Zevane, close to where Gamula is, currently hiring 1,000 people. The Johnson Workwear factory is almost done. We expect that before the end of the year, they would have hired 2,000 people. And I've made an example before of some of these firms that close. And as soon as they close, South African companies are like, hey, can we come over? And can we come over now? So the point is, we understand it is a competitive landscape, and our, job as the government is to make sure that we don't allow our neighbors to outcompete us in this sector. And I think I'm comfortable that we're doing that. We haven't lost a textile firm as a result of this master plan yet.
Mhlonishwa, siyabonga kakhulu for joining us on the show. I wish we had ample time because I can tell that you have so much to share. But siyathembisa ukuthi indvuna sitawuhle siyihlola kuva ukuthi engabe tindzabeni tekukhulisa umnotfo nekudala ematfuba emisebenzi kuhamba kanjani. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
An engaging interview, and in the interest of time, let's dive straight into our market analysis. Let's welcome Sandy Lesbia virtually.